So, Rob, great to have another conversation with you. Today I'm going to bring up this wonderful topic of IP or IPR. We see it everywhere. In contracts, you're restricted by it. You're not allowed to share it. It has value attached to it. What are your thoughts?
Intellectual property.
Intellectual property.
Sort of scary name, isn't it? Anything
Yeah.
with the word intellectual in front of it scares me anyway. Intellectual property, it is that sort of intangible right to some creative element in, let's say, it's the design of something, the colour, the look, the shape of it. It can be the right in a name, just a domain name is a form of intellectual property. And it copyright, design right, patent, trademark, these are all forms of intellectual property. And they, we see on Dragon's Den the question, who owns the intellectual property? Because it's that can be where the real value of a business lies. It's the thing that creates a protection really against another business doing what you're doing or looking like you look. So it's something that is easy to overlook and not really contemplate the potential value of it down the track. But it's certainly something that some people are more aware of it than others, something that you should think about in business.
So really interestingly, Rob, I came across a case quite recently whereby a business was for sale, and it was going to be sold for a reasonable amount of money. It was an online-based business, and the question then came from the purchaser, who owns the website? And the organisation that was selling it said, of course we do. And then it was drilled down on a little bit of due diligence, and they said, are you sure you own it? Or is it the designer of the website that owns it? And there had never been an agreement put in place between the designer of the website and the organisation that was looking to be bought. So they went back and they said to the web designer, can we have rights over the website? Can you actually sign this piece of documentation? And they said, well, why? And I said, because we're looking at selling the business. And the designer said, I actually own it, but you can buy it from me for a significant amount of money. So this discussion went on for a while. And whilst this was happening, the company that was looking at buying the organisation withdrew because they said that they didn't actually own the website at the time that they wanted to purchase it, and therefore the deal was off. So the owner of the business was in absolute upset and uproar that they hadn't considered this. And some of the things which we see all the time is like, well, who actually owns it? The domain name, where's it registered? The website, was it creatively bought or is it still owned by the creative designer? There are lots of things in there around IP. And if someone changes something slightly, and this is a bit like the music industry, if it's slightly changed, has the IP now changed to somebody else? I find it fascinating, absolutely fascinating. But there's a lot of complexity around it, Rob.
Yeah, well, I think there are some. You can get really down into the nitty gritty, but I think that there are some broad principles that need to be established, and some simple steps that everyone can take to protect themselves to a degree. So one thing is, domain name registration. Make sure you hold the domain name registration. If you are having anything designed for you, whether it's the website, whether it's a piece of artwork for a publication, whether it's a logo, the agreement that you have with the designer should include an assignment of the rights to you.
Yeah.
And these aren't complicated things to do. They're important. There's stories like the Innocent smoothie brand. They it's a long, complicated legal battle that they were embroiled in, which probably cost more in legal fees than anything else, but the intellectual property and the design of their original logo was properly transferred to them. The design company actually went into liquidation. Those rights were acquired by somebody buying by buying the remnants of that business from the liquidator, and the person that acquired that business acquired that intellectual property, then went after Innocent for
Wow.
and I mean in the end it fell in favour of Innocent, but only after years and years and years of very expensive litigation and
Wow.
over a really simple, arrangement. I suppose the thing on the other side of the coin is that people who are doing the designing also, from their business perspective, they need to think about what the value is of what they're selling.
100%, Rob.
On the other side of the coin, the person that designed the Nike swoosh, who got paid $35 or something for it.
Multi-billion global brand now.
Yes, I mean, I think Nike went back and gave her some shares, and she probably did very well out of it. But it was, you're not necessarily in the position that, if you're a graphic designer producing lots of logos, you don't know whether or not that logo is going to turn into something amazing, and you're probably not going to be able to leverage your rights in that design going forwards. But it's just important to understand who owns what. I mean, just if we go back to things like copyright, so copyright being the ownership of the words and the pictures that you create, you should make sure that you assert your right in that copy. So you see the little C in the circle and the year. That it's just recording that you are the author of that information. I mean, copyright is one of those things that, with the digital age and everything that's published online, it's very difficult to keep track of and to assert your copyright to everything that you produce, or to enforce that right against somebody else. It's not always financially viable to.
That's quite an interesting, Rob. I've seen a number of organisations use photographs which they've gathered from the web, and they've used it in certain places or certain advertisements and all those bits and pieces, and then they've been asked to pay a fee for the use of that photography. Now that's another interesting space, because with many of us, you see it on the internet, you think you can use it, but there are elements of caution. There are massive elements.
If you haven't produced it and you haven't paid for it, it probably belongs to somebody else. So you've got to think about that before you wade in.
I think that's a really interesting point, Ron. If you didn't create it, if you didn't produce it, if you haven't bought it, what right do you have to use it?
Yeah.
I think it's a really, really interesting one. And also the same for others. If you've created it and you've produced it, why are they using it? And that comes for brands, trademarks, and all of the other elements within your business environment, which actually relates back to you as an organisation.
I suppose the starting point is you're thinking of setting up a business, you're thinking of a business name, you're thinking of the brand name. You've got to make sure that you can use that name without falling foul of somebody else's intellectual property in it. So there are some simple things that you can do. You can search, using the various search engines to see, is anybody else using that word, that collection of words, as a business trading name. You can check with a company's house to see whether or not there are any companies registered with that name. You can check all of the media platforms to see whether or not anybody's using those handles, because what you also want to do is make sure that your trading brand name is available to you as a domain name, as a social media handle. And you can check with the Intellectual Property Office to see whether or not there are any registrations with that, using that name or collection of words. So it's really important. It's pretty tedious. of course, increasingly difficult to find a domain name sometimes for words that you want to use, because there are so many millions, billions, I don't know, of them that have already been registered. But it's worth putting in that groundwork at the outset. What you don't want to do is invest in getting everything up to a certain level and then have somebody pop up and say, hang on a second, I've been using that name for the last 10 years and you're trying to trade off my reputation.
It's interesting, Rob, because there's a lot of discussion around this, and I know that internationally recently we got contacted saying, do you have any offices in China which are under the brand of MENTA? And I'm like, well, no, we don't. But someone was putting a global search out. They were doing a global search to see what else was being operating under that environment. What I find interesting now is that obviously with Brexit and certain things, did we lose the European piece of being able to trademark in the UK and it for going elsewhere? Because I know that there was a big uproar at one point that certain patents and certain copyrights were changed. But I don't know. I'm just asking that question. Would we need to do it in other countries if you wanted to trade overseas?
Trademark registration falls under different territories. You can register in UK. You can register in Europe. Then you get across the water to the United States and all the different areas. It's usually people start off with registering in the region that they're primarily trading in, and then there's a significant cost associated to wider international or multi jurisdictional trademark registration.
It's a huge industry in itself, Rob.
Yeah, it is. It's something that you will sort of evolve very often with a business. Major brands will invest in that from the off because they know they're going to create something and launch it globally, and they will look to protect that in all the jurisdictions where they need to. But small businesses have got to work within their budgets.
Okay, so IPR. Know what's yours, know what's theirs, don't steal anything.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
That's a quick summary. Excellent. Thanks, Rob, for your insights on that. Thanks for listening, everybody. And just remember, this is purely discussion. It's not direct advice. And should you have any bespoke needs that you have for your business, please seek legal, financial, or other business advice and support where you need it.